On this week's show, as we live our busy lives always on the go, we are often contemplating the equation that inspires us, but it always comes at the most inopportune time. So how do we rack our brains and make the most of getting that inspiration down when it matters? We will discuss that and more with our roundtable discussion panel. Then, we welcome C.L. Cannon's Indie Connection, as this week we run the gamut of emotions for indie books comparable to All My Rage. And speaking of gamut of emotions, we're about to be taken on a whirlwind in the final 5 minutes by the awesome Lahr as he takes us through the insight to his mind's creations. So sit down, grab yourself a cup of coffee as we get ready to discuss these issues and more. For This Week in Indies, here's your host, Joe Compton. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening for some people out there. Welcome to This Week in Indies for June 5th, 2022. Gosh, it's June already. It's crazy. We've got a great show for you. I've got a great roundtable with a great discussion that we're about to have. But I wanted to start today. It was some sad news and something that happened earlier in the week. I had a friend, a colleague, someone that appeared on our show a couple we did before there was Indie Mayhem. We had our own thing called the 10-minute drill, and she was part of the first season of that. And unfortunately, she passed away earlier this week. And she was a great indie author. She was just getting her career started. It's amazing how often in life you look back and you see, time pass you by, but how you can start at any moment, at any time. And she was one of those people that started a little bit later in life, but she always had the passion and drive to write. And I remember having that exact conversation with her about it. And something that really humbles me and to know, and in one of the conversations that we've had, was how much that she worked to get herself, available to do stuff for Go Indie Now. And she was only able to do that one show. We just never could get together to do another thing. She was actually going to be on a 3-act structure episode at one point, and she couldn't get connected. And so it's really sad that was the only thing that we had the opportunity to do together. But we talked every so often, and I'm gonna miss my friend Catherine. She was unique and very. She just had this incredible passion to do this, and so it's really sad that she's not going to be with us to do any future episodes. But I did put together a little bit of a clip from the 10-minute drill, one of the really fun moments that we had. It was actually right at the beginning of the show. And so I'm going to play that, and then we'll take a moment to honor my friend Catherine Soto, and then we will get to our show. So here's a little clip from the 10-minute drill that we did with Catherine.
Hey, I'm Catherine Soto. I'm a science fiction fantasy writer. I also write poetry. You can find me at CatherineESoto-author.com.
Nice. All right, Tim. What makes writing a blurb so difficult?
Keeping it short.
Nice. Daniel?
Absolutely. How do you put a whole novel into a few paragraphs? It's tough.
Nice. Catherine?
Doing it the first time, doing it the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time, and the fifth time.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, so thanks, Catherine, for that wonderful memory. And sorry, everybody, I muted you, so let me unmute everybody here. Welcome to the show. I know it's not always fun to follow that, but we do have a show to do, and so she was great. She always had that kind of energy, even in talking in chat. It was really something. So. Anyway, welcome to the show, and we've got a really great show. We're going to be talking about being on the go and finding that inspiration, or doing something when inspiration strikes you at the most inopportune time. So why don't we go down the list here and introduce yourselves as always. I'm just going to go by the way I've got it here. So Adam, why don't you start us off, sir?
Sure. My name's Adam Gaffen. I write the Catholic Chronicles, a LGBTQ inclusive sci-fi series. There are 5 novels, a collection of stories, a memoir written by one of the main characters, and a new spin-off series which launches on June 20th. And this is a special edition, which is only available in print.
I'm reading Into the Black right now. It's really, really something, man. I'm really enjoying it.
Good.
And then I mute myself. All right.
Skills.
Hi everyone, Karina Kantas here. I am an author of 14 books and a filmmaker, a booktuber, YouTuber. I run Author Assist, which helps authors with their marketing and promotion. I'm also the host of the Artist First Radio Network show, Author Assist. My 2 latest books are Broken Chains and Road Rage. Dark romance, if you like that sort of thing. Go out and check it out.
And all the wonderful graphics that you see in the thumbnails and everything on screen, that's Karina for us. She does that for us. So we're really appreciative of that. All right, Anita?
Hi, I'm Anita Stewart. I write under A.F. Stewart, dark fantasy, horror, some poetry. But my latest book has absolutely nothing to do with that, but it does tie in a little bit to today's subject, which is Planning Your Book Organizer, which is basically a place to keep all your notes and world building and character sketches and stuff for all your creative impulses.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. That just came out, everybody. Go get it.
Looks good. I want that. Yeah, I want that.
Okay,
Hi,
Nikki.
I'm Nikki Nelson Hicks. I'm an author of several different books, several different genres. I try to run the gamut of a lot of genres. I write from horror. I've got some steampunk. I've got some pulp noir set 1930s New Orleans, where I had this poor guy just basically torture him for 6 stories. And I have some monster, just good old monster stuff, which I really enjoy. Basically, I do whatever you pretty much give me a contract for. And there goes my husband in the background. Hey. So.
Nothing like being live. All right.
Well, no, a cat. Usually it's a cat.
Yeah. We'll take husband today.
Take husband. So, yeah.
All right.
If you need a cat, there's one back here.
I saw your cat. I was going, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's 13 and he's enjoying the nap on the dog bed.
Yes, of course he is. He owns that bed now. It's his bed.
Yes.
All right. And last but certainly never least, the one, the only, Ron L. Lahr.
Hello, everybody. I write fantasy. I write science fiction, humor, and this is humorous science fiction. I also host Indie Mayhem here on the Already Now channel. And that has been a revelation in terms of how much work it turned out to be compared to how much I thought it would be. A real education there. But has been incredibly enjoyable. And then on a personal note, while I normally talk about my garden, this week we got 14 chickens from a friend, adult chickens. And that was another thing that turned out to be so much more work than I expected.
Chickens.
But we've got our first 12.5 eggs in the last 3 days.
Aw.
So
Yay.
very exciting.
We had chickens. Chickens can be fun.
Chickens can be fun. But
Yes, can.
Chickens are tasty.
Not that they are. They can.
oh yes. I'm scared of emus. Have you seen those TikToks with the emus? They're terrifying.
All right. It only took us, 11 minutes to go off the rails. I love it. All right.
Brought up chickens. So
Speaking of fun, what is more fun than when you're in a position to, where you're doing something else and all of a sudden inspiration strikes you? I mean, obviously, we all get inspired at some point. Creativity comes and it goes, and we covet it when it does happen to be there. So I'm curious what everybody's method is for capturing that at the moment. What do you guys all keep notebooks? Are you old school like that? Notebook and pen? Do you use your phone? What are some things that you guys do when inspiration strikes you in the weirdest of times and moments?
go for it.
Years ago, because I've been going for quite a while now, showing my age. Years ago, I used to carry a dictaphone around with me. And as every author on the panel, every author watching the show knows that inspiration can hit any time. And so when that happened, I'd whip out the dictaphone, I would start talking in it. It could be a dialogue, could be a scene, could be a joke, could be anything. And I'd just talk in it so I have it on record. I think this is before mobile phones became big. Anyway, so I would be walking around the supermarket, something would happen, I'd whip my phone out and I'd start talking to it, and I'd get these strange looks from the shoppers around. And I'd be on a journey in the car with my husband, and something would inspire me, and I'd get it out and I'd start talking. I'd be total gibberish to anybody who heard, but mean a lot to me, that if I don't get that down, it's so bad to the book I'm writing or the book I'm going to write. Just the idea, if I don't get that down, then I'm in trouble. Once dictaphone's finished, it was a pad and pen. I carry a pad and pen with me everywhere for the last 20 odd years, and get it out anytime to write if I get an idea. I love being out in the public, like a coffee shop, just people watching, listening to conversations. That helps me to get ideas down. And I love listening to music. So I can listen to rock music and heavy metal. It doesn't matter what genre I'm writing. It could be a children's book, who knows. And I can listen to music, and that would really get me, inspire me to be able to get my notes down on my pad and pen. But there is a bad side to that, is that I keep all mine, because for me, it's proof that I wrote that book. In years and years to come, if someone turns around and says, oh, I've wrote that book, and I'm like, no, you haven't. I've got 20 pads here. So I've got suitcases and bags of these notepads from years and years, from the first book I ever wrote. And I will keep them until the end of time.
Who else wants to jump in?
Oh, I just grab anything that's handy and close whenever inspiration, because inspiration tends to strike me at the most inopportune times, like just after I've turned the computer off and it'll take 15 minutes to boot it back up or whatever on the desktop. So I just I've written on scraps of paper, junk mail. Junk mail is so helpful. When the inspiration strikes, that's the best use for junk mail. And I've got notebooks. I've got a notebook in my purse. I once spent 15 minutes repeating a first sentence on the drive home in the middle of winter. So yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, when I've been at cons, when I was at Cosign, and then when I was at Superstars, I had a computer with me, just a little laptop that I used. And both times I ended up with a story coming out of it. One of them's actually in Into the Black, Joe.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but most of the time, it comes from living in a really small town. Most of the time I'm at home. So if inspiration strikes, I'm not that far away from the computer, so I can come down here and just add something in.
Yeah.
I know, boring, but hey.
No.
It works.
But I'm sure you're doing stuff around the house too, right? So oftentimes does it happen when you're like doing stuff and you have to do you stop what you're doing and just go and run to the computer, or do you wait, or how do you approach that aspect of it?
Usually I don't get the okay, this bit of dialogue is perfect kind of flashes.
Gotcha.
So it's not that I have to capture the exact wording as it pops into my head. It's, and so I can retain the idea, I can retain the gist of it long enough to finish what I'm doing, and then come in and, put it down so that I can come back to it later and go, what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, I've done that too. Yeah.
How about Nikki, Ron, you guys want to talk about
okay. Again, I use my phone sometimes. I can go into the notes on phone. I always have usually a journal or something near me and scraps of paper. I've got this lovely thing now that just makes little notes with, little things like that. I can make notes to myself. I'm a big note taker. I usually have a pad somewhere where I'm taking notes or scribbling. When I'm at a con, if it gets a lull, I have this little notebook that I take with me, a little computer. I remember I was at a con once and I was working, and I wasn't an author there. I was actually working the con, helping people out. And I got bored and I just kind of fell in this little room. I just started writing. That's why I wrote Black Cherry. I started writing Black Cherry there. So it's just, you write, you do what you have with you. I always have something. You have a pen and something with me that I can write on.
I have 3 things I do. If I'm at the computer doing something else, I have a document, a Google Doc I use. If I'm, say, out in the garden or out traveling, I text my wife. So she'll get these weird ass texts. And she does the same thing back to me. This is our memory assist device. It engages them. So, and it's not like I could forget, because I look at texts from my wife all the time. So later I'm going to see it and then maybe put it into the document, the Google Doc. And then the third thing I do is just fucking forget. I'm in the middle of something and I'm old and I'll be like, oh my God, this is perfect. And then a half an hour later, I'll be like, boy, it's a real shame that I don't know that thing anymore that I thought was so great.
Right.
And the older I get,
the
bigger that third option, becomes, the more prevalent.
That's why I write everything down, because I know I'll forget.
You forgot to text
I
your
try,
wife.
but I mean, there's just times in the garden or driving, that I can't.
You're busy. In the shower. That's my big thing. In the shower. Something about water and the muse. They just tend to go really well. And I'll get this really great bunch of dialogue. That's perfect. And by the time you get out of the shower, do all of your things, put the clothes on. What was that thing again? I've walked through doors now, so my brain has reframed itself. And yeah.
Need a waterproof pad and pen.
Wouldn't that be great? You make some bucks, make one of those. Just put on, or if you wrote it on the side of the stall, if you could do that.
I think they have those, to be honest.
I think they do somewhere. Yeah.
I think there's some sort of pad thing you can stick in the shower that you can write on.
That'd be awesome.
Anyway, but it's washing dishes for me in the water, not the shower.
Yeah, that's where I got the story for Almost Jenny, washing dishes. I was washing dishes and Rumble, washing dishes, and the story came to me, and then I went and wrote it down somewhere. Just one little bit, what the plot is. Yeah.
It used to be the gym for me. Whenever I was done working out, like I'd be sitting in the car just kind of taking a deep breath, and all of a sudden my story comes. So I use my phone. I have an audio program that I use, and
that's good.
It dictates it right to a Google Doc, and then I can look at that and wonder what the hell was I really talking about, because the audio doesn't always translate correctly. I'm curious, Ron, do you subscribe to the old wives' tale that if you don't remember it, wasn't worth remembering anyway?
No, I prefer to think it was genius, and it is so sad for the world that they aren't going to get that.
The universe had to get rid of it.
Because I won't, and that is true sometimes. I will not remember what the idea was, but I will remember how excited I was about the idea and how confident I was. It was either going to fix a problem I was encountering in my writing, or solving something, or just oh my god, that is going to be a great story. And I will say it's like 1% of the time where later on I go, oh yeah, and the other 99% of the time, nothing,
gone,
never, ever, gone forever. And I mean, you know how in the old days you'd be writing something and you had to, there was no auto save on the computer. Right. There was no nothing, and you just lost stuff.
I've lost so many things.
Yeah, and I have lost stuff that I've written and thought, man, that was great, and then boom, it's lost. And then I try and rewrite it and recreate it, and it's just crap compared to what I remember the first time. Well, similar feeling there.
Yes, it's a death
of a what might have been lost opportunity.
Yeah, I once lost 2 handwritten pages, so I don't know how I put them. I put them in my little pile where I had them. Went back later; they were gone. I have never seen them since. I don't know.
I hate it when that happens.
Obviously, a very selective thief.
Yeah,
very selective.
I suspect the cat did it, but.
you've wrote that scene, you've wrote it down somewhere, but you've got all these pads and you're looking through them for just this one little scene that you've written somewhere in one of the pads, but you're desperate to find it because you've wrote it and you don't want to write it again because you don't know how to.
Yeah,
it's such a bugger.
And then you find a scene in the pad and you're going, have I transcribed that yet? And then you have to go and check. Yeah, that's fun.
I mean, how often are you all looking back at notes that you've created? Is it all the time? Do you when you're writing something else, when like you go and you're writing something completely different that's not related to these notes or anything like that, and all of a sudden it strikes you that note I wrote like 7 months ago has the perfect line for this perfect moment. Is that ever something that happens to you? Because I'm of the minority that believes that written words are written words, but they also, if they don't work with what I'm doing, I'll delete them. I don't care. I don't keep them. I'm not a keeper. I'm a keeper. I don't hoard them or anything like that. I delete them. I don't put a separate file together usually. Sometimes I do just simply because I want to research something or that, but I don't keep words that don't mean anything to what I'm doing at the moment. And maybe I've missed a lot of opportunity in that respect, but I mean, I'm curious how often you guys go back to those notes and incorporate what you're doing at the moment.
I wouldn't write something even as a note unless I really, really needed that. Unless it was important, and that's why the inspiration came, because it was needed for that scene, for that dialogue, for killing off a character to move the story along. If I write it in a note, it's going to be needed, and it will be typed up and used in my book. But what you just said at the beginning, do we go back? I actually found my dictaphone the other day, and I was so excited to press the tape and listen to all of these stupid notes and things that I said from back 15, 20 years ago when I was doing Illusional Reality, the fantasy. I was so excited. I was actually going to do a live video of me listening to it. And I pressed play, nothing happened. So I changed the batteries. And it didn't work. And so I couldn't listen to my tapes, and I was really sad.
Oh,
And
it is sad
that would have been so cool, but no, the dictaphone, that was it. It was just so old. It just wasn't working anymore. That's such a shame, though. I found all those tapes. I was so excited.
Courtney says, "Oh my gosh, I have so many notebooks, napkins, receipts, envelopes, etc., with story ideas and random dialogue."
Yep.
But how many of you do keep it like me? Because you want it not just to look at later on, but as proof that that story belongs to you. That's why I keep my notebooks and all my pads and everything for the last 27 years, was because it's evidence, even though you've got it on memory sticks and what have you. This is written evidence that the idea came from you, that you wrote it. I mean, how many of you actually keep all of that because of that reason?
Well, I have
If I wrote anything down physically, then I'd probably be in the same boat as you, but I don't. It's all electronic for me. And I'm actually more with Joe. You know, if I'm writing something and, you know, I go back and I look at the passage I just wrote and go, ugh, that's no good. I'll delete it and it's gone. And, you know, if it's not good enough to make the first draft, then I don't see a point in saving it. If I'm, you know, my notes, you know, I'll create another file with, okay, this is a story idea, but then it'll get incorporated into the story. I mean, I'll just pick it up from that point and build around the little half paragraph that I put in there. So the note gets absorbed, you know, so you can see the date, you know, you can see the date the file was created, you know, but yeah, I'm kind of with Joe on the, you know, if it's not good enough, it just gets dumped.
I'm a hoarder. I have boxes and boxes of notes and books and things from stories that have been written, have not been written yet, will be written. I have things everywhere. I will one day be able to be found dead underneath a pile of these things. But it's just what I do. It's what I have. It's what I am, and it's what I am. So yeah. Also, I have to have it in front of me to see it. If it is in front of me, it ceases to exist. So I need it. I just need it.
Yeah, I keep all my handwritten stuff, like my notebooks. My desktop is currently littered with scraps of paper, and the envelopes and everything. But for the computer stuff, it doesn't do the computer. If I change it, it's changed. I don't bother to save all that stuff. So it's sort of both with me.
So I break ideas out of my, you know, my kind of one writing notes document, and they become project folders, you know, with things inside them. So I go through that main document infrequently unless there's something I'm particularly looking for. But for like my Cathaldi fantasy series, there are series notes that get put into each book's notes and ideas file. And so that's where I kind of create the outline and then start fleshing the outline out. So, you know, it's a big document. And it gets to the point that when I finish the first draft, I have to go back and read through that entire document to make sure I included all the elements that I wanted for maybe reasons that will become clear in future books or, you know, all that stuff. So not very often, but thoroughly, I review those documents.
I'm curious how, you know, Karina said she has a dictaphone. You all have kept notes and things of that nature. Adam says he does it on electronically. I'm curious how much technology matters to you in terms of how you note take and keep ideas. As we get technologically more advanced and, you know, things get easier for us, do you embrace that idea and use it for that, or do you stick to the old school principles that you've always had?
I'm an old school gal. I'm a notepad and pen everywhere, beside my bed, in my bag. Every time I go out, I'm off tonight, I will have a notepad and pen in my bag. I'm classic. I don't pick up my phone and talk into it. I don't use a dictaphone anymore. Note and pad, and then it eventually gets typed up onto the computer later. But technology, no, I'm old school.
I'm 50-50. I can do both. I travel both worlds. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I've had a computer since the 1980s, so I mean, it was a dual floppy disk, gigantic portable computer.
Oh my God.
It was like carrying a metal suitcase, and it was. But so I mean, I started keeping my writing thoughts and ideas in electronic form way back then, and then I got cell phones early on, and then I had a pocket PC, Microsoft's, basically computer the size of a paperback that I carried around, and it had Microsoft Office on it. It was like an iPhone,
an iPad.
Well, it was like an iPhone, but clunky. And it was giant, and I had it in this leather case. And I remember my practice wife would make fun of me for having it because I gave it an old time early 1900s phone ring. So I thought that was very funny. And then we were at the grocery store, and it rings, and I pull this giant freaking thing out, and this young lady checker is like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" And I was very gratified to tell my wife, shut the fuck up. I was right.
I'm cool.
I'm a super cool guy to young ladies everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I came across some floppy disks the other day in a box, and I looked at the labels, and it was like from books that are written years and years ago. Do you remember the floppy disks?
Gosh, yes, I do.
Why have I still got them? I've got them because, again, it's evidence that I wrote that book, and I feel so strong about the copyright and having evidence that I'm the author. I think that's the only reason why I kept them, but there's only 5, so they're not taking up a lot of space.
I don't think that's the only reason. The other reason is it's evidence that you're a hoarder.
We're hoarders.
So am I. I'm not judging.
Only 5, yeah. I have no idea. I remember those. Yeah, my very first computer didn't even have a hard drive. It ran on floppy disks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
mine too.
Terrible. And remember the big printers? The printers are like this big, and the dot matrix. They would shake the table, and
the extra stuff you had, the things you had to rip off the sides.
Oh, that was so satisfying.
Did anybody here type on a typewriter?
Yes.
I did.
Oh,
The first draft of "You Get What You Steal," Robin and I wrote on my fancy electric typewriter.
I had a very fancy had a correction tape. I was very fancy. Yes, my very first stories back in the early '80s were written on my little. I have a picture of me in front of my little. I thought I was so special.
I hated those electronic typewriters because I was so fat. Like my brain is so much faster than my fingers at times, and like I couldn't keep Then you have to pan through the window, that tiny window, to see if I actually wrote, because I miss words all the time. So it was like, it's like when I print that out, it's like, oh crap, what the hell am I saying here? I don't even know. So
I had an electric typewriter, but it didn't have a window that showed me what I was typing. So yours is well advanced.
Yeah.
I did the first, it was an 18-page short story of In Times of Violence before it got turned 20 years later into my first novel. And that was done on my electric typewriter. So that means a lot. I've still got that. Not the typewriter, the pages.
Yes. I've still got my old stuff. It's in a box somewhere. Oh, yeah.
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 I still have a hoard of the computer printer paper that you tore apart.
Oh!
That's my scrap paper now. Just tear the little perforated things off. It makes great
Yeah, the one that had that thing on the side.
Yeah.
There's
well,
nothing like having a chore after you finish printing something.
I know.
I really miss that.
Because
And-
mine were
and
like, I had to tear the pages apart. Not only the
Yeah.
thing that to take the it was a pain in the ass. It
Yeah,
was
it's
horrible.
like carefully tearing the pages apart so they don't rip.
Yep.
That
was-
was fun. Still is fun. But it's just scrap paper now.
Yes.
I have a lifetime supply of scrap paper.
I managed I managed to learn at just the right time, I think, because when I was in junior high, we had to learn on old manual typewriters. So
Oh,
touch typing on manual typewriters. So I got that. And then the very next year, the high school I was in got network computers, an old VAX 440. And
jeez.
yeah, so went right from manual typewriters to using computers. So I had all the touch typing skills. My wife is still amazed. I can sit here and I can type and I can talk to her at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's just muscle memory. Yeah, my last class of my senior year, 6th period senior year, I had typing, and that's the only thing I really took away from high school was that.
Wow.
And it's just muscle memory, just that.
Yep.
Well, I want to say, Adam, that I also can touch type while I'm talking to my wife. I just transcribe whatever I start saying to her.
That happens too.
Then you have a record of it.
Yeah.
It might not be a good thing.
No.
No, not always. No.
Although, so we write the first draft that you get what you steal on a typewriter, and then Robin got a Mac, one of the first generation Macintosh computers, because he was rich, and we switched to using the Dvorak keyboard.
Oh.
If you guys aren't familiar, it's designed so that your strongest fingers are the keys that are typed most commonly. So your pinkies are on things, like Z, that you don't use as often. And it makes so much sense that we both were touch typing with that and got really fast. And ever since, when I didn't have access to that and I had to go back to the regular thing, it has crippled my timing, because I have like this hybrid thing. So I can still touch type, but not anywhere near the speed. And it's not because I'm old, because it started when I was, in my 20s.
Excuse.
But I wish I had never had to leave the Dvorak keyboard. Although, the problem is, in those days, it wasn't like you could go to work and change the keyboard layout. Now it's pretty easy, but at the time, I would have had to take my own setup
Keyboard.
everywhere I went. And anyway, great
I had to
story in retrospect.
In high
So happy I brought it
school,
up.
I was the last class to do it on a manual typewriter, but like Adam, I had to learn that, and the ones with the big keys that had like the long
Yes.
boom, 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 and every time like the most popular ones like S and D and all they would get stuck, and you have to pull it out and pull it back, and that was a nightmare. That was so terrible, and I told my mom, "Don't you dare buy me one of those typewriters. I want the electric one, because it was like typing on a keyboard."
Oh, I type like feathers.
I remember with the manual, when you made a mistake, you had this special tape, and you put it over the paper, and you'd hope that the letter that you had to go over, you'd bang it like 10 times to get it to cover that one mistake.
Absolutely terrible.
And how many times have you ended up with ribbon fingers, where you put the ribbon and you had the ink all over your fingers?
Yes.
The things that we went through, young people who are
Wait, this for you, the things we went through. Oh my God.
Courtney says she's with you, Nikki. She's a hoarder and she has ADHD, so the object permanence is too true.
That's why I have nothing but notes and everything around me. My side of this office is like, it's sad. You can't see it because all you see is nice. Brian's side, it's so nice and calm and collective over there. Mine, no, scary. All the things.
My desk beside me, I can actually count 8 notepads on my desk beside me, and all of them have something in them for some reason.
And 2 coffee cups, I have no idea what's in them. Not a clue. I don't know when I drank them.
Terrifying.
It's disgusting. It's
That's a
disgusting. I'm
little
not gonna
worrying,
lie.
Nikki.
I'm not gonna lie. It's disgusting.
That's a bit TMI there. You've got science experiments growing
I
on.
do. I have basically a universe right here growing. So yeah, they will worship me as a god. So yeah.
I've mentioned this before in the shows way long ago. I actually wrote a vampire novel, and I wrote it from start to finish, and I did it in a notebook. And for some stupid reason, I did it double spaced. I don't know why.
Oh
you can see I have pretty good penmanship, but if you want to look to see here, I got pretty good penmanship.
You do.
So,
Mine sucks. Mine's awful.
but it was like I don't know why I did it that way. I don't know if my brain was trained, but the thing about it is, I look at that thing and I go, God damn it! I was such a horrible writer. I was so bad. It's a terrible book. I don't know why I hold on to it. It's the only thing I've ever held on to, other than my first film, which I have also locked away. But I don't know why. Maybe someday I have thoughts of maybe I can make it better, which you never can, as I'm learning. Right now with my first book that I actually did publish, I'm trying to rewrite it so that it fits into, because when I originally wrote the first book, I only had intentions of writing that book. It was going to be a standalone, and now it's turned into 3 books. And so now we have to tie the first book back to the second and the third one. And so my publisher and I are working on that, and it's a pain in the ass, because I'm realizing I'm such a better writer now than I was 8 years ago when I wrote this thing. And so now I'm like literally rewriting the whole thing, and it's really painful. And so I'm kind of curious, when you look at older notes, if you're looking for an idea and you go to those older notes, are you just taking the bane of the idea and rewriting it? Or do you look at that old stuff and go, God, what a terrible, terrible writer I was. I mean, I just want some comfort. Somebody help me.
I don't look at that stuff. I will not look at that stuff. It's put away. It's forgotten. And I have notebooks.
Why keep it then?
Now,
that's my question.
I keep it to prove to myself that I did it. I mean, you did it. My very first thing I ever wrote, and I still have it somewhere. I was like, 17, 18 years old. It's god awful. And I've told you this story before. Every chapter starts with people walking down hallways. Every chapter is someone, and I look back on it now and I realize, well, of course, sweetie, that was your life. Your life was walking down hallways every damn day of your life, because I was in high school. So it was terrible, and it had a vampire in it. It was basically some sort of weird, like a space kind of opera thing with vampires and magicians and wizards and shit. It's awful. It's just awful. But I have it because it's kind of like a little tribute to past Nick. I'm not her anymore, and you got to give her some props. At least she was trying. So, and I did that on my electric typewriter, and I remember taking it to Kinko's and getting it printed off to have different copies of it to give to people. Why would I give that to anyone? But I was very, very proud of it. So
I shelved my story. I wrote it about 8 months before I read Interview with a Vampire, and then I read that book, and I go, that's why I shelved it, because I was like, I'm nowhere near this. This is, I mean, I knew it then, but it's like she did it so well. I was like, I'm never going to compete, and I don't want to be that guy that jumps on it just because it's popular kind of thing. It's just not. I mean, I don't know that it would ever been worth publishing to begin with. Let's be honest, it wouldn't be worth publishing. But
because I knew a guy who did that, he wrote out of spite. He wrote, I'm gonna write a vampire love story just to show you how easy it is to do. And then he found out, oh God, this isn't easy at all. And it was just out of spite. It was really, really out of spite. And he isn't writing anymore because he just found it's really hard. It's not. No,
that's too bad. I like his motivation.
His motivation is but it's just no. He had a nervous breakdown, disappeared. So.
Well, I love reading my old stuff. I mean, stuff from high school even that I have printed out in a file folder. Old writing stuff. Even though I'm not saying it's all gold, but there's always something in it that I love. Some line or part of it. and some of it I think is enjoyable. Apparently,
You're a
you
narcissist?
guys all sucked at first, but I had a real talent even as a child.
When you find those pieces of gold, though, Ron, do you take them and use them in your other books?
Often I do.
Oh, yeah.
Often I do, or some of them I have polished up and put out there. Even one I used as a reader magnet for my humor email sign up, and yeah, I there's something that I love in all of them, not just because of I wrote it, although I'm sure that's a part of it.
Well,
I'm very easygoing on any of my own accomplishments. I value like, oh my God, that soup is amazing. Good job, Ron. That's great soup. Great fucking soup. So I tend to judge myself much less harshly than all of you and the rest of the world. But that aside, there is something in all of them. And sometimes it's like, man, I wish I was as smart as I was as a teenager. That guy was pretty funny, and now
I'm very happy to leave I'm very happy to leave 18-year-old Joe far in the distance.
Oh, that's sad. At least I have my garden now in my old age.
I'm of the opinion that any of your ideas can be improved on. So, I've taken flash fiction stories and made them into trilogies and weird ideas and reworked them. It's just that I'm going to be reworking an old novella I did into a new series sometime in the future, maybe, if I get the time. So I'm perfectly willing to go back and revisit stuff and improve it.
Mm-hmm. That works. Yeah.
The question, though, for me is having the voice. Is having the voice, because the voice that I'm using now with the Cassidy books is totally different than the voice I was using for the older stories. So
of course,
whether the plots could work is one thing. The voice is going to be something totally other.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I do look at like when I was making films, like short films, because I could just make them real quickly and do them. That was kind of my thought, was to go back to older writings of mine that I did, like short stories that I used to write and things like that. And I have based films off of that concept before, but it's completely just like it's the bridge before you jump onto it's the barge that you jump off of to go into the water and swim, right? So that's kind of usually how I looked at it. And I never really this vampire novel aside, which I haven't touched ever, it's just been sitting there, but reworking something, like I said, it's just been a nightmare. So I don't know that I would ever. I think when I finally feel like I'm made it as an author, I'm going to take that vampire book and I'm going to burn it in celebration.
No. What you do is, when you're a famous author and even your shit will sell a ton, then you just put it out as is and laugh at the idiots that buy it. Don't you guys have favorite authors who that seems like what they've done?
Dean Koontz.
Read them for decades, and then all of a sudden it's like, what is this shit?
Yeah, Dean Koontz did that. He did a lot of books he wrote when he was in college, and just started putting them out, and they're just terrible. They're awful.
I love Dean Koontz.
Yes, Dean Koontz is great, but there was a point in time he started just spewing out stuff, or maybe his agent did or his publisher did, that he wrote in his college, and they're just god awful. It's like, what the fuck is this?
It's funny too to think about that idea of it, and we'll explore this on the other side. But just to give everybody a little teaser before I jump into the Indie Connection, thinking about that idea is this, how we think about musicians and how musicians, they like to experiment as they get older and go on. And what do we always say? Oh, I like that guy, but I liked his older stuff, right?
Old stuff,
and I'm kind of curious if we do that with our writing and our authorship. So we'll talk about that on the other side. And here, everybody, is a wonderful, wonderful Indie Connection by the awesome CL Cannon, who's in the chat. So Here you go, Courtney. Thank you so much. And we'll be right back right after that.
Hey guys, C.L. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. The first book I have for you is called Come With the Fire by Julianne Mundell. When the one you trust betrays you, you have two options. Forgive them and walk away, or burn everything to the ground. Ever since her mother moved her entire family to Toronto, 16-year-old Emily has spent the last 3 years trying to fit in at Trinity Collegiate. But this uppity private high school feels more like a prison to an outspoken Jamaican teen navigating a new life in Canada. When a string of mysterious fires break out in a vulnerable part of the city, Emily meets a familiar face and is forced to find her voice and speak up for what's right. But at what cost? Living between two worlds, Emily walks the fine line between belonging and being rejected by the person she trusts the most. The second book I have for you is called Sinkhole by Davida Breyer. Lies from the past and a dangerous present collide when, after 15 years in exile, Michelle Miller returns to her tiny hometown of Lahr, Florida. With her mother in the hospital, she's forced to reckon with the broken relationships she's left behind, with her family, with friends, and with herself. As a teenager, Michelle felt isolated and invisible until she met Sissy, a dynamic and wealthy classmate. Their sudden, intense friendship was all-consuming. Punk rocker Morrison later joins their clique, and they become an inseparable trio. They were the perfect high school friends, bound by dysfunction, bad TV, and boredom, until one of them ends up dead. Forced to confront the life she turned her back on 15 years ago, she begins questioning what was truth and what were lies. Now, at a distance, Michelle begins to see how dangerous Sissy truly was. The third book I have for you is called The Bollywood Lovers Club by James Goldberg and Jancy Patterson. Before you can reach for your dreams, you have to choose them. Amrita Siddha belongs in her Indian extended family and her Sikh faith in her California home. But when a family fight makes up her father's mind to take a job across the country in Ohio, she's torn from the fabric of her community and left to find her footing in a new high school and a new life. In Ohio, Amrita meets Dave Gill, who's funny, part Indian, and also Mormon. At a series of Bollywood movie nights with friends, they begin to connect, despite the pressure they both feel not to date outside their own faith. As Amrita stares down diverging paths for her future, she knows only one thing for certain. She can't hold on to everything. She'll have to choose between her relationship with Dave, her family's good opinion of her, and her place in her own community. And once she makes a decision, there will be no going back. And the last book I have for you is called I Am Me by Kaya Strand. When giving back to others isn't enough, can one teen discover what's truly important in life? Lola Rinaldi leans heavily into service for the struggling. Padded by privilege, the high school senior defies her mom's push to study law and marry well in favor of chasing her volunteering obsession. And during her favorite gig, building affordable homes, she's happy to befriend a mysterious boy, until he scorns her supposedly naive, privileged mindset. As doubt chips away at her confidence, the big-hearted girl worries her perfect plans for the future are quickly unraveling. And with new boyfriend troubles, a bestie spiraling into a meltdown, and an unexpected loss, she fears she's not the person she always wanted to be. Can Lola uncover the missing piece she needs to feel completely whole? Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on Indie Connection. Bye!
Yes, as always, thank you to C.L. Cannon for those wonderful books, and everybody go check those out. And it's a great another week of good indie books to check out if you're a fan of certain books. So it's always great to have that. I was thinking about that question that I posed beforehand. simply because I was thinking about what Nikki said, and I really love Dean Koontz's older stuff. I'm a fan of the older stuff, but I'm not a fan of the newer stuff. So
No.
it's like,
Bingo.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I knew him when he was cool, right?
I knew that was cool. Same thing for Stephen King. After the 1980, when he started blowing his brains out with coke, no. His stuff sucks. I have not liked any of his stuff since the late 70s.
Even The Dark Tower?
I didn't read Dark Tower. Although I'm saying I've never read it, and I heard it's really fantasy, but I've not read it. Friends keep telling me, "Oh, you need to read it."
So, what was the last one you did like?
Geez, what was the last one? Probably it has to be all this, the Stands, Salem's Lot, even my mind's gone blank now.
Pet Cemetery, Carrie.
Pet Cemetery is awful.
Misery.
That is a piece of shit. Misery is okay, but he gets it's all right. It's probably one of the last ones.
Eyes of the Dragon.
Eyes of the Dragon, I liked it mainly because it was, it was kind of a love story for his daughter, because his daughter won't read horror.
Right.
And that wasn't too bad. I enjoyed that one. I remember how he used to take the threads from his napkin and take it, and here's what he made the rope or something. It's all I really remember from that book.
Yeah.
But no, I
liked Under the Dome.
Was good.
Under the Dome.
Under the Dome was, I'm not.
Because he went over to science fiction with some horror elements.
Mm-hmm.
So
The last thing I read of his was Cell, and that upset me so terribly badly. I actually wrote a letter. I hated that book so very much. It just was terrible.
Wasn't Under the Dome turned into a TV show?
It was.
TV series.
Don't watch it.
To answer Joe's question,
Didn't have a
I'm
chance.
going to say,
Watch it.
No, don't watch it.
I'm going to say that your preference really depends on when you start listening to reading their work.
Sure.
Where your introduction point is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because if you're introduced to somebody later in their career, then you're going to like that stuff. And when you go back, you may or may not like the earlier stuff.
That makes sense.
It does.
For example, Donald Westlake. I love his Dortmunder novels. Okay.
Oh,
Absolute classics. But I can tell you that I like from What's the Worst that Could Happen onward more than I like the earlier ones, because that was my introductory point. That's where I got into the series. And so looking back, the characters in the earlier ones, they're more raw. They're not as well developed. He's still working out who they are, what their characteristics are, how they interact, and it doesn't feel as complete as the later ones. So I like
it's to do with the voice, isn't it?
exactly.
Again,
It's
it's to do with the voice and
the maturity of the writer.
the
Like,
maturity of the writer.
Terry
Exactly.
Pratchett's Discworld stuff is great. Love Discworld stuff. However, you can feel he doesn't really hit his peak until he hits the guards. When he gets into the Night Watch, he does the Sam Vimes stuff. That is him. That is his voice. And as he used to say, he hated it whenever if he wrote a story and Sam Vimes or any of the guards showed up, it became a freaking guards book because they always took over. Yeah, that's true. Also, you guys ever heard of a writer called Sharon McCrum? Her name is Sharon McCrum. Anyway, she's wonderful. She had a whole series of books called, they're part of the Ballad series, and they're beautifully written. Loved her work. And then suddenly she decided she wanted to be a real writer. And then she started writing all these books that were just historically accurate. Historically, everything in it, if they ate breakfast, that was what they ate. And they're so boring. She forgot the story. She was so
Too much
focused.
creative writing.
She was
too
so
much
focused.
description.
Oh, so focused on making this thing real. She forgot to put a story in here. I got bored. I don't care. Clothing, food. I don't give a shit. Give me a story.
This is
The
why I don't
details
like
are there to
Stephen
support
King.
the story.
I keep flipping over his pages when I try and read a book by him because he's so descriptive. I just want to get to the shit. I want to get to the action, the conflicts, the romance, the actual plot. I don't want to hear what the weather's like or what degrees this professor has. It's
Don't
too
care.
descriptive for me.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have to say, I really do prefer 18-year-old Ron Lahr stuff more than I do now Ron Lahr. He was a genius back then. I don't know what happened to him.
What happened to old man Lahr? So, yeah.
You guys laugh, but
Too many years gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah, too many fresh vegetables and fruit. It turns out it's not good for you.
I'm curious, Karina. You're rewriting your first, one of your first series, and and you're going there, and I know you're doing it for a specific purpose. But what have you discovered something about yourself or that old writing that you gravitate towards or want to distance yourself from in rewriting this? I know you're changing one of them into a different POV, right? So
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, I've really shot myself in the foot with this Outlaw series. It's because of my voice changing. It's because of the way that I write, the style that I write, and how dark my writing is at the moment when it comes to Road Rage and Broken Chains. That's the Mafia and that's the MC. Well, the Outlaw series is the MC. And I have a young adult, which has been out for years and years, but I couldn't put it as a box set because the next 3 books in the series were 18. So I had to write a adult version of In Times of Violence. And the reason it took 20 years is because I wasn't ready to write it. And now, after doing these 2 books, Road Rage and Broken Chains, I am ready and I've started it and it's dark. And because of that, it's a totally different book to the young adult, totally different story, same people, but totally different plot. And like I said, very dark and very violent, very sexual. And so Huntress, which is a follow-on of In Times of Violence, needs to be changed eventually. And then I was ready to do the new cover and bring out Lawless Justice again. But I sent it to my beta reader, and she is like amazing. She's like an editor as well as a beta reader. And I take all her advice. So, I mean, Broken Chains wouldn't be a bestseller if it wasn't for her, basically. So I was ready to listen to what she said. And she said that it would work better in a different point of view. I had it as third. And she said, have you thought about writing first? So I had a week or so to mull over it, and I decided, yes, I will. So, yes, I'm rewriting completely in different point of view, Lawless Justice, which has nothing wrong with the book. It's got amazing reviews. It sells well. It's got a fantastic new cover because of what my beta reader said, because she's amazing, and I trust everything that she advises me because it's worked so far. So the whole of Outlaw, it's writing In Times of Violence, young adult, changing Huntress to match the first book, rewriting Lawless Justice, and then the last book, Road Rage, is already out.
Well, why don't we start there then? Tell everybody where they can get these wonderful books, Karina.
You can get the paperbacks for these 2 books on Amazon. The Kindle books for all the rest of the books are on Amazon. If you go to my link tree, you'll see all my socials and all the titles of all my books. 14 of them are all there listed where you can purchase them and also sign up to my newsletter. And it's Linktree, and then it's tr.ee/Karina Kantas small letters.
Nice. Awesome. All right. How about for you, Anita? Where can everybody go check out your stuff, including the new book, if you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The Planning Book Organizer, it's basically kind of a one-stop place to put all your notes. It has it has character sheets, stuff like this. And it's got world building sheets. It's got place to draw maps and put your sketches in. And stuff like that. And it has a little place for your marketing notes, so you can copy down all those keywords and those taglines and things like that annoy us all. And it's even got a calendar in the back, if I can find it. It's got a calendar where you can keep like events and stuff like this one, so you never forget it. And so that's out. It also has a PDF download in my Ko-fi shop over on Ko-fi. if you prefer digital over paperback. And I also have a new ebook out, The Ghostly Tower, which is the first short story in the Hayward and Anderson Consulting Detectives, which is a paranormal alternate history set in Victorian London and sort of a Sherlock Holmes parody. And you can find all my books on my website at afstewart.ca or on Amazon or retailers or wherever.
Oh, there's me. Hi. You can find all of my stuff on Amazon.
Sorry, I was muted. You didn't hear me. I apologize.
That's okay. So you can find all my stuff there on my little website, or you can go to Amazon. All my stuff, all my books are available in Kindle as well as paperback. Or you can come see me at cons. If you see me at a con, come at a con, and I'll sign and give you all kinds of stuff.
When's the next couple for you? What are you doing?
I'm doing Hendersonville Comic-Con down in Hendersonville, and that's in September. And then the next one will be in Southern Festival of Books, and then the next one will be in 2023. I'm trying to take this summer off a little bit because I'm working. I've got a book I really need to finish so I can have it ready for Southern Festival of Books. So
Southern Festival, that's a really good one.
it's a good one. It's the biggest one they have here in Nashville. So we get at least 4,000 people come through.
Yeah,
awesome. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Cool. Awesome. All right, Adam, tell everybody where they can get your wonderful books, including Into the Black, which I highly, highly recommend for everybody. and I'll have more details on that soon, I promise. But tell everybody where they can get you and where you're going to make where you mentioned Denver Expo. When is that, and where you're going to be, and everything like that.
Sure. So you can find me at CassidyChronicles.com. That's right here. Here. Hey, I at least I was on the right side.
You did
there
it.
You go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm going to be at Denver Fan Expo. That is the weekend before July 4th, so it's July 1st through 3rd. I'm really excited to be there. I'm going to be on a bunch of panels. I'm going to have a table. I'll be there with a couple other people from Superstars Writing Seminars. We've organized a bunch of panels together. Really exciting. I'll also be at Multiverse in Atlanta in October, and there may be one or two others in the works. The new book in the Cassidy Chronicles universe is coming out on June 20th. It is The Ghosts of Tantor, and this is the special edition. This one is only available in print because it has unique artwork and 2 short stories tucked into the back, which you won't find anywhere else.
That's awesome. That's cool. I like that. Thank you, sir. All right. And congratulations. You're at GoIndie now. You found us. Good on you. I really appreciate it. Stay a while. We've got some really great shows coming up. We have some great shows out there, including one you're going to be hearing about here in a moment. And smash the like button, comment, share, do all those wonderful things. If you're so inclined to check me out, I'm Joe Compton, and I do have one book available. Well, actually, I have 2 books available. If you want to get the audiobook of the very first book that I mentioned earlier that I'm rewriting and want to hear what a disaster that was, you're welcome to do so. The audiobook is still available there on my it's called Amongst the Killing, and then my second book, We the Moral Majority, is out with Three Furious Press. You can go to threefuriouspress.com, get that there, or go to Amazon and find it there. Barnes and Noble, everywhere. They go wide with everything. So we do have that out there. And then my third book will be out sometime early 2023. And I'm writing a fantasy series, so I'm joining the fantasy cults and wonderful groups and everything like that. And that'll happen here very soon. But and then at some point I'm gonna start making movies again too. So look out for all that. And I guess I'm listening to all of you who say I don't talk enough about myself. So there you go. You just got a minute and a half of me. So congratulations. But that being said, it is now time for me to shut the hell up and bring in the one, the only, Mr. Ron L. Lahr. He's going to take us away with the last 5 minutes. Brace yourselves, everybody. Here he is.
Hello. So, man, I have been very busy. And I know everyone is, but I am one of everyone. And between my ridiculously large garden, my oversized garden, and the arrival of these 14 chickens from fully grown chickens from a friend who's moving out of the country into the city and couldn't take them, I have not been keeping up on my newsletters. I have two. I have a fantasy newsletter about the Catholic Chronicles, my fantasy stuff, and then I have a humor newsletter, and I haven't done either of them in weeks. So I wanted to talk about everything that I am doing right now. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is my Catholic series, which there's a lot of stuff happening, even though I haven't done any work in the last few weeks. I'm putting together a box set of the original trilogy, the first 3 books of the series. And the series is about a fantasy world where the gods manifest irregularly. But I mean, there's no atheists there because the gods exist. I mean, so what there are instead are people who do not follow the gods and who, well, they really hate the gods. And the same way teenagers hate their parents, that kind of thing. But anyway, they are the bad guys in my books. The Cathaldi is their name, and that trilogy is a big fight between the heroes and those guys. And I want to do a box set of that. And then after that is a very cool project that I saw Madeline Dale commented about last night on Facebook, because she wrote a story for it. It's an anthology that takes place in the Catholic Chronicles world, and I have 3 stories in it, but the rest of the stories are by other authors. And the size ranges. One guy wrote a frickin' novella. I mean, it's not going to have a paperback because it's going to be gigantic. But they took characters or settings from my trilogy and wrote their own stuff about it, and which is a really surreal experience as somebody who created the world decades ago, to read stuff that other people write in it. And one is a horror story, and one, I mean, there's funny stuff, there's kind of some dark stuff, really fascinating. Anyway, that I need to get out this year, and I've accumulated so much stuff. Editing is a lot of work there. And then I'm also outlining right now, or working on the story for a murder mystery. The main character who tells their first person, the first 3 books, and the main character's Dirk, and he has to solve a murder in his next novel. So I'm excited about that because it's a way I can bring in a lot of the characters that I enjoyed from the trilogy without having them play integral parts in the story. And I mean, it just kind of evolves from what happened to him in the last book. But that's that one. My other book is You Get What You Steal, a humorous science fiction novel I wrote with my co-host on Indie Mayhem. And that book, we are working on multiple sequels. I mean, it's a long story, but RJ wrote a sequel on his own. We wrote this book, the first drafts of You Get What You See, a long time ago, and he wrote a sequel all on his own, and I'm cutting that into pieces and breaking it into multiple sequels, and then writing the rest of those, so that'll produce multiple books. I'm not sure how many yet. And that's about all that's happening in that world. The biggest thing that I've been spending my time on, the bulk of my time, is going towards Indie Mayhem, our game show here on the Go Indie Now network. Right now we're editing 2 episodes, 10 and 11, the first 2 of the 3 semifinal episodes. We will be filming the next semifinal, which Adam is on this Wednesday, assuming all the people make it, because it had been scheduled earlier and one of the people was not available. After that, after episode 12, the third semifinal episode, we have 2 special episodes. One is just RJ and I And it's us asking questions that we never got the answers we wanted from the contestants, right? Like they didn't see the questions the way we envisioned them. And so we're going to be all the contestants and answer those questions the way we want to. So it'll be the first fully scripted and only fully scripted episode of the season. And then there's another special episode, which is bloopers and deleted scenes, which we're going to go through the entire season and pull out stuff that was funny but didn't work in the particular episode. And then, of course, we'll have the last episode, the finals, where the 3 semifinal champs duke it out for the tremendous honor of being the first champion. And then we'll be taking some time off during the summer, and that's when we plan on finally putting together the prize packages that we have promised/threatened to the contestants for the last couple of months, because the 5 minutes of work that we put in hasn't resulted in prize packages. And then the other thing we're going to do over the summer is marketing. While we're going through the episodes looking for content for the deleted scenes and bloopers episode, we're also going to be pulling out clips to put up as, short clips on. Oh, wow, that hurt. So,
sorry, I have an itchy trigger finger today. I apologize.
I was going to say, I've never seen anyone get the hooks on the
That's
show.
like a hook
But I get
off
it.
the stage.
I know I'm past my 5 minutes, but I'm really at the end. Really at the end. But our hope is to put out those all over various social media platforms to generate interest in the show. Because I have to say, I mean, all of you guys, besides Joe, have been on the show, and there's just some hilarious stuff. And I really want people to see how funny everybody is who's been on the show. But anyways, in conclusion, you can find my writing on Amazon and Indie Mayhem's on YouTube. I hope you check it out. And I just want everybody to know it's always time to go indie now.